All right, we bring in our friend Brett Norsworthy, Sports 56 in Memphis, pre and post for Ole Miss, also a graduate of the university, as he calls it. Of course, the University of Arkansas. Stats, wild weekend in college football, man. Didn't think I'd expect to see A&M at the top of the SEC standings, but here we are on October the 28th, and that's exactly the case.
Here we are, Ty, for sure. Good morning to you guys. Thank you so much for having me. And we've got October in the books, and now we're into November, and I didn't think Texas A&M would be this good. I had them 9-3 preseason, but I did love Mike Elko absolutely just spiking the ball at Jimbo's feet and at Brian Kelly's feet. If the spike fits, wear it. He got them both with his post-game comments. I don't blame him.
Yeah, he hit two coaches, killed two coaches with one stone in that little sound. But I wish I had it with me, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So let's go to Starkville first. We can talk Arkansas, Ole Miss as the conversation goes on. But Tayor Green with a magnificent day stats. He was unbelievable. Looked as pure as he has in that offense all season long, honestly, dating back to week one. What did you see from Tayor Green, and what have you seen from him progress this season?
I see what everybody's seeing. We're seeing a guy being coached by Bobby Petrino that's getting better week over week. He had I think he had the step back game against LSU, but that's also Bobby Petrino is have that short memory and get back out there and do it again. You got another chance the next week. I see a guy that Ole Miss and everybody's going to have to keep somebody at home to be the spy. And that somebody for Ole Miss is going to be Chris Paul, very familiar with playing in that stadium as he was a Razorback and then got in the portal, and Ole Miss got him at linebacker, and Chris Paul has played really well. But if somebody doesn't keep an eye on number 10, he will gouge them. He will gouge them with the run. And then when you're protecting the run with his receivers, and you mentioned 9 different guys getting involved in action, and somehow, some way, all year, everybody's tight end's been open against Ole Miss, and I think that could set up for a big game for Luke Hasz.
And Ole Miss got a good tight end in their own right, and Kane Prescourt, and someone that Arkansas is going to have to monitor. But you mentioned Luke Hasz and also Andres Poshka, both combined for 4 touchdowns on Saturday. Is that the Achilles heel for Ole Miss defensively? Is the tight ends, Brett?
It has been. Mason Taylor stayed open all night for LSU and had him defended pretty well, but couldn't keep up with him. And Garrett Nussmeier was real good that night. That's the key for Arkansas, is for Tayor Green to know when to hold him and when to fold him, to when to dip it out of bounds when he's running and when to throw it away when he's passing. The Ole Miss defensive front has been really good this year and was pretty good Saturday against one of the worst OU teams that I've ever seen. Ole Miss, it kind of stumbled around and won second half 16-0, but was behind at halftime. But the defensive line got to the Oklahoma quarterback, but never laid a glove on Nussmeier. Got to get to Tayor Green and get him on the ground, or Arkansas will have a good day. And I see this point spread. Mm-hmm. I know this game through the years always comes down to a one-score game, and why wouldn't this one Saturday? I mean, I think the team that has the ball last with 2 minutes to go will be driving to win the game.
Brett, I wonder if you're an Arkansas fan this morning and you watch your football team just move up and down the field, how much of that was a byproduct of execution and how much of it was just Mississippi State's lackluster defensive line that's been decimated by injuries this season?
Well, Ty, we know it kind of takes both to happen, but we also know it's not often that everything lines up and you're able to get 58 points in an SEC game. I think you got to give credit and pat the guys on the backs when they do well, because we know how very difficult this league is. And I think this year in the SEC that it's really, really good. I don't think it's vintage. We both have seen the SEC a lot better than it is this year, but it's still pretty good. I only think there are probably 2 teams, Georgia and maybe Texas. I'll give it to Texas, that can think about winning at all. Texas has me a little concerned, and what Georgia did to them sure was concerning, because there are other teams out there as good as the best teams in the SEC. I don't think this is just mail it in, win it all year for the SEC, and I don't think we're going to have 4 in the college football playoff. I think there's probably going to be 3, and it could be Texas A&M, and Georgia.
So what do you make of Texas, Stats? We've got a caller that calls in every day and just boasts and parades at how great the Longhorns are. But the last 2 weeks, They get killed in their home stadium, and then they squeak out a win on the road, which against a much better Vanderbilt football team than anyone anticipated. Like, what do you make of this team that outside of really those two games that I mentioned hasn't played anybody? Michigan's nowhere near what we thought they'd be.
No, I think that's the concern for Texas, and we know how loaded their roster's supposed to be. The Ole Miss general manager, and we have those terms now in college football, Billy Glasscock, he came from Texas, and he told me in the spring, you can write it down. They're going to be in the college football Final Four, in the semifinals. They're that loaded. I haven't seen that. When they really look good, I think it's been against lesser opponents, maybe not brands, Michigan, that helmet, that brand, that stadium, that setting, that week. But now with the passage of time and everybody playing, kind of the whole balance of the season, I don't know how impressive that is. And Quinn Ewers, he's been good, but he hadn't been great. And then both he and Arch Manning looked like they didn't want to go back in against Georgia.
Brett Norsworthy, our guest, Sports 56 in Memphis, pre and post for Ole Miss, Arkansas graduate as well. Stats, 2 years ago when Ole Miss came to town, it was freezing cold. I remember because I was up in section, I think, 524 or something. I just remember it was one of the coldest games I've been at. Arkansas ran roughshod. Rocket Sanders had himself a day, as did the rest of that Razorback offense. Quinshon Judkins didn't have a good day, but that got him to bowl eligibility. Arkansas finds itself once again playing Ole Miss with the opportunity of a bowl-eligible type of game. What is the Razorbacks when you got Ole Miss, Texas, Louisiana Tech, and Missouri? Like, what is the ceiling number of wins that they can get, in your opinion, these next 4 games?
I think it's dependent on this week. Get this win this week. You feel like you should beat Louisiana Tech, and then see if you can't get 1 or 2 and have some kind of maybe even magical year. I think the winner this week, whether it's Ole Miss or Arkansas, almost assures themselves of something like Gator Bowl. The defeated team, they're looking at Music City Bowl, and Arkansas can still finish strong and have a good year because Mizzou's kind of coming undone. Very ideal. Luther Burden having 3 yards receiving Saturday. Yeah. 3 yards receiving for Luther Burden. It could be checkout time for a lot of teams out there, and I have that concern about Ole Miss. And we've lost 2 games, each game by 3 points each. And, the goal in the preseason was playoffs or bust. There was not a single Ole Miss fan that if you'd have said, hey, how about 9-3 and go to the Citrus Bowl and play Wisconsin, they would have looked at you like you were talking about going to the Independence Bowl in Shreveport.
You mentioned Missouri there, too, Stats. They're dealing with Brady Cook's injury. I think that's a big thing down the stretch for Eli Drinkwitz and the Tigers as they lose 34-0 in Tuscaloosa this weekend. How do you think their season projects down the stretch when they still have to play? Honestly, their schedule's not that tough. It's Oklahoma, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. How do you think their season ends up for Drink and company?
It's the world we live in. November for a lot of teams can be really good or really, really bad because the NIL, the portal, the free agency, the money in college football now, it's methane gas coming under the door. You don't know it has you until it has you. And everybody's locker room is somewhat afflicted with it. You hear stories out of Alabama about player discontent, and it looks like Kalen DeBoer, that a lot of the team is treating him like the substitute teacher, coming in for that principal that ran a tough hallway like Nick Saban did at Mizzou. You even hear stories of Eli Drinkwitz and him letting everybody know he's a free agent and he wants the Florida job badly. Whether that's true or not, that story is out there. Lane Kiffin in coaching rumors. You see Hugh Freeze really needing to go to Kentucky and almost get a must-win to make. There were people thinking that Auburn might go 2-10, but got the win at Kentucky with Jarquez Hunter rushing for 278. And I had Ole Miss friends of mine wanting to tell me after losing to Kentucky, wanting to describe the Kentucky defensive line like it was Joe Green and the Steel Curtain. They hadn't won a game since.
Yeah. Oh, that Kentucky loss at home, of all things, is probably one of the most puzzling losses of the college football season. And
the worst Ole Miss home loss in SEC history.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Again, Brett Norsworthy, our guest, Sports 56 in Memphis, pre and post for Ole Miss. Brett, you mentioned Chris Booth-Paul earlier. This is one of the dynamics. Like you don't play Rocket Sanders in South Carolina. You don't play KJ Jefferson in UCF, but you do play Ole Miss. What's this dynamic going to be like this week? Not just for Chris, but this Arkansas defense and former teammates as they take on one of their former teammates.
I know what it's going to be like, but I know what it should be like. It's going to be like everybody expects it to be, and he's going to be roundly booed and probably heckled in the bench area, and that happens. But in this portal world, you're going to have somebody. You're going to get somebody from somewhere else that you didn't want to lose. And I hear my Ole Miss friends that have such contempt and disdain for Quinshon Judkins. You won't ever hear me say a cross word about him. He played great for Ole Miss. He was fun to have on the team, and he saw an opportunity that he thought was better for him. Okay, so I wish him well. Of course, if we played Ohio State, I want to beat him, and I don't want him going off against Ole Miss. But I don't have this raging contempt for him, because this is the Wild West that so many people have been saying for so long that we wanted. We wanted player liberation. We wanted player freedom. Well, what part of player liberation and freedom do you not get that the guy that was with you last year might be against you this year? And in the Ole Miss world, we had Malik Heath from Mississippi State, and I told my Ole Miss friends, I said, don't overdo it and get in Mississippi State's face about it, because one of these days we're going to have one playing against us that we were fond of. So everybody just needs to, I think, be adults about it and treat it for what it is. It's professional sports. That's what college football is now, and not get that upset about it, but also know human nature.
Stats, last thing before we let you go, Arkansas basketball exhibition this past Friday against Kansas. Boogie Flan, DJ Wagner looked fantastic against a preseason All-American on the other side. I know Kansas missing a couple players, including Hunter Dickinson, but did you get a chance to take in Arkansas at Bud Walton Arena this past Friday night?
I did, and the Arkansas guard play is what's going to just amaze everybody, and that's where college basketball is won. In baseball, you win with pitching and defense. In college basketball, you advance through that bracket with guard play, and what the Razorbacks have in guards and wings is just really incredible. And got John Calipari that I really believe very invigorated. He needed the break from Kentucky. Kentucky needed the break from him, but there's still a lot of great basketball left in him, and I would pencil in the Razorbacks right now at minimum Sweet 16.
Brett, we'll leave it there, man. I love hearing that. At a minimum, hopefully Arkansas has some postseason success. I know that's hurt Cal the last 5 years, and I know he wants to get out of that postseason rut as well. We'll see you this weekend in Fayetteville. Hopefully it's a barn burner starting 11 o'clock on ESPN.
I'm looking forward to it. You know where I'm going to be Wednesday and Thursday.
Yep, he's going to Gaston's. Enjoy the trout fishing, Stats.
You got it. Thank you, man.
All right.
Basketball fans, it's that time of year again. The NBA is back. From opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, BetOnline has you covered with the best odds, biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all of your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. BetOnline has every stat, matchup, breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the games. And it's not just the NBA. BetOnline has odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, to even political props. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.